We'll call this regular board meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, we can. Mrs. Brogan?
Aye. Are here?
Dr. Flanagan?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Stirling?
Here.
Mr. Meister?
Here.
Jill Brogan?
Here.
Mrs. Meeks? Here. Larry Barber?
On his way.
Ms. Sardrino, recording secretary.
Julie Morris, superintendent.
Michelle Erb, curriculum and instruction.
Josh Rand, business and operations.
Scott Rollinson, human resources.
Okay, if we can have the flag raised for allegiance. I don't see a flag. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we need a motion for approval of the agenda.
Motion.
We do have a couple of changes.
Right.
They are 10A1, no student travel. 10B2, no facility requests. And then 11B and C.
Okay, we'll have a motion for approval of the agenda with the said changes.
Motion.
Second. Dr. Flanagan?
Aye.
Mr. Stirling?
Aye.
Mr. Meister?
Aye.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mrs. Brogan?
Aye. Oh, that was all of us. Okay. We need a motion to approve the board minutes, regular organizational and closed meeting for May 11th, 2020.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Stirling?
Aye.
Mr. Meister?
Aye.
Jill Brogan?
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks? Aye. Mrs. Brogan?
Aye.
Dr. Flanagan?
Aye.
And with that, we'll turn it over to Jason for awards and recognition presentation.
Yep. So I will take over. Mr. Barger was going to present and make a few comments regarding all of our senior events that occurred, but obviously since he's not present yet, I will just go ahead and do that for him. And so tonight what we wanted to do is just really take a moment to thank everyone that played a huge part in really honoring our seniors this year in this last few months. I wanted to name a few specific people that put in a lot of time and a lot of work into all the different events that were happening over the last couple months for our seniors.
I'm here, finally.
I want to take a moment too, also just to recognize and congratulate our seniors. So, Larry, I was just taking over. If you want me to keep going, I was going to recognize the people that we talked about. Otherwise, if you'd like to, you can do that at this time.
You can go right ahead and finish.
Okay, thank you. So I do obviously want to recognize Mr. Yarborough and Dr. Boyce for all of their work in setting up these events and planning. I know that there were a lot of ideas and things that were shared with them, and I think they did a great job of just kind of figuring out what's going to honor our seniors best, and they did a great job executing that. A big thank you to Christy Colbert, who is the administrative assistant to Mr. Yarborough. She did a lot of work with the slideshows and the virtual events that we had. A big thank you to Nick Stange and Kira Noonan. They did a lot of work as well with the filming of our events. Brad Sweet and Jenna James did a great job with the baccalaureate. A thank you to Bobby Sheets, who also participated or volunteered to participate in the baccalaureate event. A big thank you to Michael Stanley in our office, who helped make all the streaming happen on Facebook, YouTube, and our website. Obviously, we want to thank the Harlem High School staff, who just, I think, went above and beyond to really recognize and to, they sent special messages to our seniors. They were a part of some of the pickup events that occurred, and obviously have been an integral part of everything that's been happening. Also, the staff throughout the district who submitted words for our seniors. They sent video messages. They were a part of our graduation ceremony. And so a huge thank you to all of our staff that really honored and recognized our seniors this year. I also want to recognize our transportation department and our athletic department. I think they did a fantastic job with our Friday night events. It was really cool to see our transportation department out there, our drivers that were, as you saw the picture, the 2020 picture that we had, and just some of the things that they did to help make those Friday night events special. And again, congratulations to our seniors. I know that wasn't how they pictured ending their career in Harlem, but we're really excited to see where they go in the future, and congratulations to them. So again, thank you to everybody that really worked tirelessly over these past couple months to honor and recognize our seniors.
So I'm assuming we're under comments or awards and recognition, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
just finished that.
And I don't have any comments from the community. Does anyone else? Chris, Julie?
No, I explained to everyone that if they received an email specifically asking to have it read into the minutes, they could do that as long as there's contact information, and no one had anything that I know of.
Okay, thank you. With that, we can turn it over to Mr. Oran for approval of the bills.
All right, thank you very much. The total payables were tonight were $638,070.14. There were void checks of $1,000. There was one payroll this period in the amount of $2,775,028.36 for total expenditures of $3,413,098.50. Split out by fund, the education fund paid $2,889,797.96. The tort fund paid $28,574.96. The operations and maintenance fund paid $175,623.09. The debt service fund paid $42.74. The transportation fund paid $139,183.37. The IMRF Social Security Fund paid $109,226.77. The Capital Projects Fund paid $32,224.61. And the Life Safety Fund paid $38,425 even. Again, for total expenditures of $3,413,098.50. Are there any unanswered bill questions? That's it for bills.
Thank you. All right, can we get a motion and a second to approve the bills?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Meister,
Aye.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Barger,
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Dr. Flanagan,
Aye.
Mr. Stirling,
Aye.
Okay, now we can move on to communication and committee reports. I will start that off. I would like to first congratulate the senior class of 2020. Job well done. I did get a chance to watch baccalaureate and the graduation ceremony, and I thought both were very well done. I've seen several others with my own children graduating and nieces and nephews, and I thought ours was top notch. So kudos to all involved. Board monitoring report. We didn't get any submitted last time. If you guys could try to remember to email that to me, I would appreciate it. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is Monday, June 15th, 2020 at 6 p.m.
Hey, Larry,
Yes,
can you send us that form?
sure.
I don't have it.
Okay, yeah, I'll get it sent out again. Let's see, next
Thank you.
education committee meeting, Wednesday, June 17th, 2020 at 6 p.m. The next policy committee, June 22nd, 2020 at 6 p.m. And we have a recommendation to release the redacted closed minutes from July 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. And let's see. We need to get a consensus on our delegate assembly for IASB this coming year. Do we have any volunteers?
I'd be willing to do it again.
Okay, anyone else? Looks like Sue's the winner. I think we have to take a consensus on that. So I will start with yes.
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 Was that everybody? I lost count.
I
Yes.
believe it was.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, next we have a proclamation that I'm going to read from the Village of Roscoe. It is proclamation honoring Village of Roscoe High School graduating class of 2020. Whereas Harlem High School seniors are emblematic of things that make our community a great place to live and work. Whereas the 2019-2020 academic year and commencement ceremonies have been interrupted as a result of the global coronavirus pandemic. Whereas Harlem High School seniors have led by example and laid the foundation for good citizenship through their strength, sacrifice, and perseverance in this time of uncertainty. Whereas during this unprecedented challenge, our seniors represent a bright future, thorough application of each student's unique talents and abilities will continue to lead along the path of service and leadership. Whereas the Village of Roscoe supports and congratulates all graduating seniors of Harlem High School and encourages all residents to support these students as they enter the next chapter of their lives. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mark W. Suzla, I'm sure I butchered that, as the president of the Village of Roscoe, together with the Board of Trustees, do here proclaim May 2020 High School Senior Class Recognition Month. Go Huskies. And congratulations.
Nice.
And that will end my report, and I'll turn it over to Mrs. Sue Brogan.
Good evening, everyone. Here we are on video again. Hopefully it won't be much longer. I also would like to thank everybody's effort and hard work that went into making Friday Night Lights special for all the seniors, all the people involved with the videos. I did also see both the baccalaureate and the graduation. All the special messages from the teachers to the students, all our staff, all the high school staff. Job well done, especially with nobody having any experience with this. I think Harlem set the bar high for this, and I think we did an awesome job. And I'd like to thank everybody and congratulate them. Next Business Service Committee meeting is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020 at 6 p.m. And congratulations to the seniors. That'll end my report.
Thank you. Mrs. Meeks, your report.
Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank everyone for a job well done, especially during this difficult time. I don't want to say any names, just you all know who you are. I really want to say to the class, senior class of 2020, you guys have definitely showed your strength and your courage, especially during this difficult time. I hated the way things turned out and how it ended, but you guys went above and beyond to show how strong you are. So with that being said, I want to wish each one of you continued success as you start your new journey. And as always, you can't hide that Harlem pride. You guys are the best class ever. Although I didn't get a chance to shake your hands, I'm doing my handshake here, but hopefully in the future we will be able to. But words cannot express or explain how grateful I am and honored to be on this board with you guys being the class that you are. So with that being said, just wishing you all continued success. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Stirling, your report.
I would just like to thank all our technical support for being able to present and deal with all the technical issues over the last 4 months, from online learning through teacher labs, through the different, trying to walk parents through different things, and actually having a virtual graduation that, even though we've never done one before, really turned out very nice. It really showcased more students in a positive light than we normally are able to do in a normal setting. So at least that was one positive. Kids, graduates, our future, you guys are amazing. You have persevered through so much already in this life, and this just shows you that nothing can hold you back. We're here for you, and we look forward to hearing all the great things that you can accomplish. And with that, I thank the class of 2020. You guys are our heroes this year. So thank you for everything you've done, the teachers, the kids, really, even all the administrators. It's something that nobody has done since 1908 or when the flu was. I have no idea. So I just want to say thank you guys, and we're here for you. And with that, that'll end my report.
Thank you. Miss Jill Brogan, your report.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to say I had the opportunity to attend the Army's graduation for our Harlem students that enlisted. It was great to be able to still see them in their cap and gowns before they're off, to see their families, the pride, the emotion. I know it's going to be hard for them having their baby gone, but there was definitely a lot of pride there, and we definitely had a lot of Harlem students enlisting in the Army. So congratulations to those students. Thank you for allowing me to be there and see that. I wanted to say thank you to our staff at the schools, our technical staff, transportation, the officers and fire departments, and everybody that was involved in making our Friday Night Lights so special for our students. This past Friday, there were a lot of seniors there with their families taking pictures in their cap and gown, and that was really great to see. And then I wanted to say, don't forget, this Friday, Nicholas Conservatory will be turning their lights orange to honor the Harlem seniors. There isn't the specific time, but if you look on their website, I believe they said sometime between 7:30 and 8. Thank you, Roscoe, for the proclamation. Thank you to the parents, the students. This has definitely been a trying time, but everybody has really come together. We're thriving. Our students are, succeeding, and congratulations to our seniors. No pandemic's going to take away how proud we are of you and how hard you've worked for this honor. So congratulations to you. And that is all I have.
All right, thank you. And thank you for the reminder on Nicholas Conservatory, because I had forgotten. Mr. Meister, your report.
Thank you, Larry. Good evening, everyone. I would like to congratulate the senior class of 2020. I hope each and every one of you has the best of luck with your endeavors. I also want to send a thank you out to Jill Brogan for salvaging what she could Friday night of parents and students waiting at the high school for the lights to come on. They did come on. They were late coming on, but thank you for what you did, Jill.
No problem. It was, help with Dr. Morris and Terrell, and we all got it going.
Awesome. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Flanagan, your report.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, huge congratulations to the class of 2020 for not only, really stepping up to the plate and being nimble, but also really being heroes in the moment of having to change a lot of what we have held on to at the end of our high school careers and the things that we look forward to. And I know that that hasn't been easy for you along the way. But I hope in some little way it's been, very rewarding for you. You'll always be remembered as the class of the pandemic, if anything else. And so just know that you're in our hearts for continued success in whatever you choose in the next step in life. Also, in a special way, I just want to point out to all of the parents that are watching and with us tonight, I know how hard you've worked, and that's not to underscore any of the staff members because I've spoken about that before. But the parents have really stepped up and have helped their kids in what I think was a very rigorous and appropriate e-learning environment. So thank you, Dr. Erb, for working with your team to, have a really great experience set up for the kids. And from a parent's perspective, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody else for hanging in there. None of us wanted this or expected, but it just shows the power of community in this time, and I couldn't be more proud to be in our wonderful district. So thank you, and that ends my report.
Thank you.
Larry, if I could just mention one thing I forgot to say. I will say that being that I'm the one that goes out to do the grocery shopping or whatever, I have seen a lot of vehicles that I just love the writing on, talking about senior skip day champs. And it's been hard to ride skip day champs. So that's been really nice. I've seen more and more every day lately. So that was neat.
Awesome. I've seen a lot more too. I've gone back to working out of the office, so I'm out more, and I have seen some. I didn't see the senior skip day champs. That's hilarious. That's awesome. Okay, on to administrative reports. We will start with Dr. Erb.
Thank you. I have one item this evening under my reports, and that is the Windsor School Improvement Plan. Tonight, Shelley Wagner is going to present Windsor's plan to us, and I am going to ask for approval. This is tied to our Every Student Succeeds School Improvement Plan. So Shelley?
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be with you tonight remotely. For tonight, I have prepared a few slides to just go through this plan with you. And I'm going to present my screen so you can see it. Share. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
All righty.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So this is similar to other school improvement plans that you have seen in the past. This comes from our accountability rating with the state that we get every year. And each school in the district is given a rating every year, and it can range from lowest performing all the way up to exemplary. If a school is underperforming or lowest performing, they need to perform a self-evaluation and then look at the data and address those issues that the state has found that we are underperforming in. And so this is what it would look like. And this is how the accountability ratings are put together. And we had one school that ended last year that put us into a underperforming category for Windsor. So Windsor was underperforming for chronic absenteeism. If you look at the pie chart there on your left, you can see for the K-8 band, chronic absenteeism made up 20% there in our pie for accountability ratings. One thing I'd like to point out is that we disaggregate the data, well, the state does for us, when we look at our data. And so we're looking at different subgroups. And even if one of your subgroups is underperforming, then that makes the whole school underperforming for that particular area. And we had one subgroup that was underperforming for chronic absenteeism. You can see on the pie chart all of the other measures. We were not underperforming in any of those other areas. We were commendable for all of the other areas. And so this is kind of a summary of what I just talked about. So there's an indicator, each student group's performing on each indicator. In this case, it was chronic absenteeism at Windsor. So they got a designation for that student group of Hispanic. And so the school got that summative designation of needing improvement. And here's the chart. So you can see this chart also on the Illinois report card. And it shows you the groups that we look at when we get our accountability ratings. And this is the particular indicator that we were underperforming for the student group of Hispanic. And you can see that their bar for the school is way up there at 36%. And what I mean by chronic absenteeism is missing 10 or more days, excused or unexcused. So this would account for whether or not the parent called and said the student wasn't coming. So our primary purpose is then to look at our school, and Melissa Yeska is the principal there, and she's got a great team, and they spent the year looking at their different systems that they have in place and trying to figure out, well, why is our chronic absenteeism for our Hispanic students so high? And then they came up with a plan. So they found that we have some specific areas of need at Windsor Elementary, and they think that by addressing these areas of need, we can really improve on that chronic absenteeism number. They are culturally responsive resources, supplemental intervention and enrichment resources, programs that specifically target absenteeism, and some professional development for staff. Part of the plan is to address those needs because when a school is identified as underperforming, they are given grant money to assist the school into putting a plan into place to address those specific needs that they have. So with that money, they're going to purchase some culturally responsive materials, utilize the attendance works toolkits. That is a free resource, and it's very well done and very well put together. That's available to all schools, and it specifically targets attendance. And there's professional development for administrators and staff, and it talks about working with families and all of those things that we think will really, really help us to address our chronic absenteeism rate at Windsor. They'd also like to extend the playground mural map to include Central and South America. It's out there on the playground. It needs a refresh too, so that'll be great if we get that. And then establishing an after-school tutoring program. So for students who can't make it to school for whatever reason it may be, really giving them an opportunity to work on those things that they need to work on that they missed when they were gone. Create a coordinator position. This would be a position that would be similar to what they're doing at the middle school when they created that last year to address their difficulties at the middle school. And then professional development for staff. Does anyone have any questions?
Now, Shelley, you had shared before that that is not one of the indicators in the future, correct?
Yes, the state is going to eliminate chronic absenteeism. However, when you are identified as a school that needs improvement for whatever indicator you were flagged for at the time, you have 1 year that's a planning year, and that's what we did this year. So you get a full year to look at your building, to look at the difficulties and things like that, and then present a plan to the board by June 30th of the end of that year. So that's what we're doing now. And then you get 3 years of implementation to address that area of need. And so 36% is high, and it doesn't matter if the indicator is going away or not, we're still gonna get that funding for those 3 years to address that area.
Does anyone have any questions for Shelley? Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome. Thanks so much.
So that would end my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley and Dr. Erb. I will turn it over to Mr. Rand.
All right, thank you very much. I have one item tonight, and it's a recommendation to approve the resolution declaring surplus property and authorizing disposal of the property. So there's tables and chairs at H9, and then outdated curriculum materials that are currently being stored at H9. Are there any questions about the surplus property? I have no facility request tonight, so that is my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rand. Mr. Rollinson, your report.
Thank you, Larry. So under my report tonight, we're recommending a total of 3 transfers, a total of 10 employments, 1 certified staff member using the Federation Bank. And informational for you guys tonight, we have accepted 9 resignations since we last met. That's all I have.
Thank you. Dr. Morris, your report.
All right, I have 2 items this evening. The first one is the recommendation to approve the facility utilization plan. And what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to take a couple of minutes to recap just where we are with the full plan. Josh is going to look at the financials and just kind of talk us through that again to bring that back to the forefront. Dr. Erb is going to review the data that she has collected based on what was requested at the last meeting. And then Mrs. Johnson will summarize the 6th grade component with the presentation entitled Empowering Student Success. And so just to start off then, to recap, if you recall, back in spring of 2019 and fall of 2020, we conducted the actual facility utilization study and how we currently utilize our facilities. Then in November 12th of 2020, we presented to the school board the findings from that study. And Wold Architect was involved with that with us. The next thing then we did was in February 24th, 2020, we presented the recommendations based on the findings, the whole comprehensive plan. Then we followed up at the March 9th meeting. There were some questions, and so we followed up with some additional information at that meeting. Then there was more information that we wanted to consider and to bring forward specifically to the this time the 6th grade component, and then we are going to be presenting that information to you this evening. So the 2 things that I'm going to review briefly are from the original document. So attached to the board agenda are 4 documents. The first one is our original recommendation that was dated in February 24th. The second one was a follow-up memo from me regarding, and that was March 9th. The third one is the documentation that's new tonight that Dr. Erb pulled together based on her findings. And then the 4th item is the PowerPoint presentation that Mrs. Johnson will take us through. So just as a recap, the criteria that was established and presented to the board on November 12th at the regular board meeting to determine what our recommendations would be, there were 4 of them. The first one was building use transitions should optimize educational opportunities for students. So optimizing the educational opportunities. The second one is that there's value to the schools that can adapt to future educational demands. So taking that into consideration. The third item was the district should maximize its building use efficiency and operational funds. So that's the efficiency and the financial component. The fourth one is that elementary schools should be located near the students they serve. So we wanted to make sure that our elementary schools are still have our students in neighborhood schools. So that was found on page 25 of the documentation, the first documentation attached. Then the actual recommendation plan followed that, and it was several pages, but on page 24, it lists the components of our plan to bring it all back into all of these components really rely on each other. So the first one is relocating our 6th grade students from the elementary schools to the middle school. The second item is to discontinue Marquette Elementary as an elementary attendance center and relocate the students to McChesney Elementary. Excuse me. The third one is to adjust elementary boundaries to maximize building utilization and to try to even out, not specifically by numbers, but based on the building utilization, the elementary schools and within the students within those boundaries. The fourth item is to relocate the Fine Arts Academy to Ralston Elementary School, and that would include, as we discussed further, building their gym earlier and opening that for the 21-22 school year. The next item is to repurpose our Marquette Elementary School as a district employee health clinic, a professional development meeting space, and an early childhood screening and parent meeting place. From there, then we went to the next item, which is accommodate the high school career and technical education program with a building addition. Now, we stated that would go, the target date would be the 23-24 school year. And based on the fallout from pandemic and other things, we may have to adjust that date, but that would still be the goal to get that as close to that as we can. And then the final item is to accommodate the separate cafeterias and gymnasium spaces at the elementary schools with their further additions of their gymnasiums. So those are the ones that all rely on each other. And then the final component, which the board approved at our last meeting, was to lease the Hoffman campus to the Regional Office of Education. And so the board approved that at the March 9th meeting, and they are in the process of working to move in and begin their school year in the fall. Are there any questions about those components? Just bringing those back to the forefront.
I have a question. How would, if we vote for all of these changes, how would we figure with the CDC's new guidelines and adding, say, all these 407 new students to the middle school, and us being about 50 people shy of capacity?
That's a good question, because we're going to have, by 2021, we may or may not still have those guidelines in place. Because this fall, we're going to be working on whatever the CDC is, or whatever the state of Illinois is going to be requiring us to do. And that may be, and Dr. Irvin's going to be presenting, or is working on that plan, and we will eventually submit that plan here once we get the guidance from the states. But those are things that we will have to work through with all of our schools, like the high school too, for example. We've got 2,000 students there, and even our elementary schools trying to put 26, 27, or I think it's 26 now, students in a classroom. Those classrooms are, to meet those 6-foot standards, there's going to be some challenges there. So that would be part of the whole picture of how we're going to work through the pandemic in general. We may or may not be affected by that by the time that we need to implement this in the fall of 2021. I don't know if that helps you, but the answer really is we really have to work with that based on all of the guidelines that may or may not still be in place when we would implement this.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. We're working on buses, we're working on all those plans based on the guidelines that we are being required to follow. Any other questions about this part of things or anything?
I had a question. When we did a walkthrough through the middle school, there's a staff cafeteria or staff break room directly across from the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Matt about if we were doing this, we could open that up into an overflow or actual cafeteria for the kids, the students, and maybe utilize the portables as staff break rooms, something like that. Is that still feasible?
Yeah, the lunchroom part of it, we've been through there with the architects and we've walked through ourselves and we're looking at what that capacity is. And that area across from there, there's actually a wall that's made up of like, I think glass, some of that glass.
Yeah, it's just glass.
But that tile and glass. And so that would be very easily opened without, there's no load bearing walls or anything there that we would have to contend with. So we would be able to open that space up and add that for extra space for the cafeteria as well. And that's a pretty good amount. Now it says we can, I think we learned that you could seat 50 people in there, but I don't know, based on the tables and so forth, that you would end up actually being able to have quite that many. But that would certainly be, and it's right there with the cafeteria and it overflows. It's all part of it. So yes, definitely. The portables, they're going to, the board had asked, and I am working with the middle school, and I agree that because of the whole safety things around the portable and having students go back and forth, we aren't going to have any classes there, and we're going to start that this fall. And we don't want to actually assign any teachers there because they have concerns as well by walking back and forth there. But certainly until we determine what we're going to do with them, if we're going to sell them or how we're going to move forward with the portables, they can be used for overflow if a teacher wants to hold a meeting in there with other staff members, or if there's, some work things that they would like to do over there. But we won't be requiring anyone over there, whether it's a staff member or student classes or anything. So yeah, it's there for anyone who would like to, use it to spread out or do what they want to do. But we will need to determine if we're going to sell that. And Josh and I have talked a little bit about that. And then that would become more parking lot.
Josh wants to sell it.
Yeah. We bought it used, so.
It's a lot of work to take and remove it, but
Used 1.0.
it's in good shape.
Have we had the fire department in to figure out exactly what the capacity is in the lunchroom at the middle school?
Yeah, we did that last week, and it's right about where it should be, based on what I don't remember the gentleman's name, Josh arranged it, but he walked through with Matt last week, and the current capacity is what the capacity would be based on his figuring. And so we would have to look at our lunch periods. And I know a lot of information that Dr. Erb, I was looking at all that information. There's a lot of different ways that different schools are doing that, so we can contain our sixth grade separately from the rest of the students and have their own lunch period. And right away, we wouldn't likely, depending on how many people we could open up that other space for, I don't know that we would have all of our students in there. And then going back to Jill's question, we would probably have to make those as small as we can. So we would have to, have more lunch periods than we currently do.
And we currently have 4 lunch.
Matt also said that.
Yes, currently we have 4 lunch periods.
Go ahead, Sue.
4 or 3? I think it's 4. Do you know, Mickey, Doctor?
I believe it's 4.
I think it's 4.
It's 4.
Mike, were you going to say something?
Yeah, Matt said that if we did the open air space, added people, that there's lanes that you guys don't currently use at the middle school for lunch. So actually they would be able to open up more lanes to get kids in and eating faster. And that's
Correct.
just what I heard.
Yeah, that is true. We have
Okay.
one lane that has been closed since when there was the population was really high back in the day. Now we don't use that line anymore. So we would be able to open that line and then continue to have our students fed much quicker. So if we had a shorter lunch period, or, I think some of the schools that we were looking at, they have 20-minute lunch periods. We currently have 30-minute lunch periods. So we would have to really look at that whole schedule, and that would be something that the principal and would work through as well.
Hananiga, or not Hananiga, their middle school does like a 15-minute lunch with a 15-minute recess or something like that added. So there's a way they do it.
Okay. Yeah. And
For
I know
like the sixth grade.
Yeah. I know some other schools have part of their lunch period is lunch, obviously, and then the other part is like a tutoring session as well. There's a lot of different creative things. Mm-hmm.
I have a question regarding moving the fine arts program over. Was it just moving them over after the gym was finished, or after the stage and everything was finished?
We had determined in the last memo that we had brought forward, we had talked about how there was concerns about having some kids there was suggestions that we not move all the fourth graders there next year. And then there was other questions and concerns about, well, if we move them, how did that go? We bring them to McChesney this next year, and then they have to move again the following year. So we had stated that we would work with that incoming fourth grade class and their parents and the teachers to determine what would be the best thing for them. Do they want to all move over right away this year, or do they want to stay at McChesney and then move as a full program the following year? I think that's how we resolved it. Am I correct, Dr. Erb?
That's the way I recall.
Yeah. So then by then, the 21-22 school year, the gym would be done, with the stage and everything. We would be able to put portable. We talked about putting a portable stage in next year, and we could still do that if we decide that the students would go over there. But overall, the actual gym itself would be ready the following year for the whole program.
So we don't have an exact plan in place. We don't know yet.
Correct. We have to determine if we're going to do this, and then we will start working with the families to determine what we're gonna do this fall. And because of all the remote learning and all those types of things, there will be challenges on both sides of that. However, we decide to do that as well.
Have we discussed the effect COVID not sharing supplies and whatnot's going to work for our art classes, or even that with the program? Is that going to have to change in some way?
That'll all be in the remote learning plan that Dr. Over and her crew are starting to work on. Well, they've been working on it, but they're working on it because the state hasn't given us the final guidance yet. So they're continuing to work on it, and whether or not we get guidance, we're going to have to put a plan in place. So that would be one of the components that they're working on. Any other questions for me right now? Okay, so then I'm going to turn it over to Josh who's going to take us through the financial parts of all of this.
All right, thank you. So going back to the financial memo of March 9th, or the financial implications, it's also updated, yeah, the March 9th document at the end of it was the updated financials where we updated some of the one-time costs. So for the staffing, the salaries and benefits savings, that has not changed and are projected to save 1.2 million per year. We went through the one-time costs with the possible playground addition, rubber mulch at McChesney, additional middle school consumables, hospital and employment cost, the locker addition at the middle school, some restroom updates, and then wall installation and removal at the middle school, and then the possible Marquette meeting room furniture equipment for a total of $185,000. So those are pretty much the same costs as what we had last time. So the other piece of it is the on-site health clinic. I've only had one quote from a vendor as I go through this process, but that quote showed a 5-year savings from our trend line of about just over 2.5 million. So we take an annual savings of 1.2 million over 5 years at 6 million, minus the one-time cost, and then add in the potential health clinic savings. It's a 5-year savings of $8,398,000. So $8,398,000. So with all the challenges that we will face coming up, the savings will be important going forward to the district. So that kind of just summarizes the salaries, benefits, one-time cost, and the healthcare clinic potential savings of that. What kind of questions are there from an expense standpoint?
Okay, go ahead, Sue.
I just had a question on the healthcare savings. This is just a projection, right? I mean, don't we have certain programs in place to save our employees money and stuff, and they're not utilizing that? So we're hoping to push them to utilize this a little more than what.
So can you give me more specifics on what programs they're not utilizing?
I want to say there was something about someplace that you can go and do physical therapy where there was no out of cost and go blood draws and
So yeah, with Zero Card, Zero Card's utilized pretty heavily actually. So we pay that bill every week, and those number of people using Zero Card has gone up. So this clinic is going to have a lot of other benefits to it, not only a higher level of care for our staff, but it can be customized to the needs of our staff too. This is something that Belvedere has been doing for a while, and I've looked at it numerous times at Belvedere and have been to a couple of conferences on on-site health clinics. So utilization, we anticipate utilization to be fairly high. When Belvedere opened theirs, I think they were booked for 3 months straight with no openings on that. Part of the piece too that our clinic would be able to do is the wellness screenings that we do. So right now we pay to have a hospital system come in and do the screenings. And so one nice thing about the clinic is you would do those screenings probably on staff's birth month. So when the month of your birthday, you would go and do your screening. And then if that screening triggers anything high, you have a doctor on site that can set a follow-up meeting and help staff go through that. Right now, you get your wellness screening and you go, okay, my blood pressure is really high. Okay, and you could go to a doctor or you could just put it in the drawer. Going to that clinic, you would have someone. There are a lot of people that may not have a primary care physician, and this doesn't need to be one, but it could be one too for people that don't have that. So not only are you getting your results in your birth month, you could also have a follow-up for a specific how to better care. It's also a lower cost for our staff because it could be, depending on how we set it up, free. So you may not even have copays, so you're getting a better level of care for less expense, less cost. So the more chronic conditions that we can manage through the clinic, the lower the cost would be. So when I talk about cost savings, instead of having a 5 or 6% cost increase every year, compounding, if you can get that to 2% cost increase per year, you're saving that 3% every year on that while giving the staff a better quality of care. A good example is the people that run the Belvedere Clinic contacted me early on in the COVID process, and they said that Their on-site health clinic had COVID tests before you could really get them out in the public. So we would also, now I can't guarantee based on the situation, but if we can get tests earlier and better levels of care for our staff, and the wellness screening helps push them to the clinic, that lets them see what that's about, meet the staff that's there. For example, the Belvedere staff, I believe all 3 of them have been there all 3 years. And so it's a really kind of a cool thing because they take the needs of their staff and they build the clinic around that so they can service what they need to.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we said we would be also using this for school bus driver physicals and work physicals, as far as, well, school bus compliant physicals every year and pre-hiring drug testing and physicals.
Yeah.
And we'd be using them for that as well.
Yeah, we could set it up for that, sure. I've talked to a few districts about workers' comp, and like Belvedere doesn't do initial intake. They typically let that go through the normal process, but they do like follow-up meetings. If you need to get something checked, you could go to the clinic for that. Because typically it is an appointment. You have an app, and then you would register for an appointment. And then with the clinic, depending on how busy it is, most of the time you can get a 30-minute appointment with the doctor. So instead of that, when you go to the doctor, you get that 5 or 10 minutes and then they're in and out. This is a lot more thorough of a conversation about your overall health and well-being. So being able to really tailor that clinic to whether it's physical therapy, you want to have that, because you can start with the main clinic and expand wherever you need to, whether it's additional mental health, whether it's dermatology. Dermatologists can be hard to get into sometimes, so I've seen some teledermatology, which is kind of a cool concept. So it really can become whatever we need it to be, the best service for utilizing of our plan. I talk about Belvedere, and they've been fairly busy, but we utilize the health plan in this district significantly more than Belvedere does. So I believe there's plenty of opportunity to see people and to help them.
Okay.
Mike?
Am I still? Hey, Jack. Where we're going to be doing where we would be doing the reconstruction in the middle school is going to be in that main hallway. That's where the 6th grade is going to be located by them. I mean, in their own area, correct? So that's where the new lockers would be going in.
So I haven't talked specifically. Maybe Mickey can answer about where the 6th graders would go. Right now, we need roughly 250 lockers, and there's plenty of those full standing lockers. So we would find a bank, whichever one makes the most sense, pull out those ones, and then put the half ones in there. They have a handful of half. Because when Julie and I first got here, there was locker sharing going on, which created all kinds of problems. So we put in those half lockers so that everyone could have their own space. So we would just remove some of them. I believe there's plenty of spots that we can make that work effectively for kids.
Okay.
Any other finance questions? Operations? I'll be here if anyone has any other questions. Just feel free to ask me.
Josh, did you dig into the long-term savings?
For what part, the operational one?
For the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I talked that the 5-year cost could be just under 8.4 million for those 5 years if that health clinic and bending that curve. Again, it's hard to know that, but this was the number projection. We do have a pretty good increase in those healthcare costs each year. So I think it's realistic to bend that curve to 1 or 2% rather than 5 or 6%. And I think then you would be realizing those savings at that point. So it's definitely realistic. It's a good starting number because that number was based on taking all of our claims and aggregating that and then coming up with what they thought the clinic could see in terms of number of people and conditions. We also talk about the wellness screenings, and those are in the $25,000, $30,000 range. There'll be some savings there too by not having to pay to have that done out of house.
Any other questions for Josh?
I have one. what would be the cost for the renovations at, maybe it's on here and I'm just missing it, at Ralston for adding the new gym with the stage and all the lighting, and everything needed for that, and then with the sink, and then the way they're going to do the art room, and then renovating the library space at Marquette.
Mhm.
Oh, never mind. We discussed that. But what would be the cost for the Ralston?
Yeah, so I'm gonna project it about 175 to possibly 2 till we get there and lay that out in terms of what that exactly looks like. That would be my estimate for the cost of that. And so we would just do a construction bond for that, so that that would fit into our bond schedule, so that we're not raising that like annual cost, just like we did with the last few bonds. We keep those bond payments flat essentially. So we would issue a bond for that to cover those costs, and then just pay those bonds off like we normally do.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions for Josh? Okay, we'll move on then to Dr. Erb for her portion.
Thank you. At the March 9th board meeting, I was asked to reach out to some middle schools to better understand their structure, and so we could try to learn from their experiences. So I reached out to all of the schools that were listed in the update provided on March 9th. And then I also included larger schools that were going to be closer to the size that we would be looking at if we brought 6th, 7th, and 8th together. Of those 18 schools that I reached out to, 10 of them responded, which I thought, in the midst of what all of those administrators were doing at that time with remote learning, that was a really good response rate. And I was very appreciative of that. The fact that schools were not in session meant that it all had to be done via email. But the positive by that is they were all given the same questions. So the answers, then it's easier to align their thoughts with it. So what I did is I did create a table, and the table was so wide that I broke it down into different parts. Part A and Part B is only the fact that I could not get it all on one sheet. I do have the larger schools first. I shared with you the school, the number of students, and the percent SES. You will notice that Quincy is a different shade than everyone else. The reason why I shaded Quincy is because they are found under the larger schools, but also similar demographics. Because the first meeting, when I shared with you, the research we had found said that demographics was the most telling rather than size. So we looked at demographics. So this other one shows size, but Quincy is the one that is similar to us in both ways. So look, I wanted to first find out how long they had been a middle school to kind of get their perspective. And most of the schools have been a middle school for at least 10 years, and 5 of them for more than 20 years. I wanted to know about their bell schedule. There was one who used 3 bell schedules, one for their 6th, one for their 7th, and one for their 8th. They are in the process of trying to come up with a universal bell schedule. They are finding some struggles with that. What I have seen that what they typically are doing is they are having a universal bell schedule. If there is a time that's different, it is during that lunch period in order to get all their lunches in. So what we are looking at doing then is making sure that we create a bell schedule and a lunch schedule that does isolate our 6th graders from the remaining student body. I had asked them if they have their students intermingle or if there's very separate hallways or parts of their building. The majority of the schools do have their student bodies split into separate areas of the building based on grade. There are sometimes some combined classes, some physical education, some special education, ESL, band, advisory types of courses, but all of them stated that their core classes are single grade. If we do approve this, I shared with you, which is Appendix B, that the sixth graders would be in the 100 hallway. I don't know if you could tell by that map or not, but in the 100 hallway, there is a pink arrow versus the others arrows on that map are green. The pink shows you that they will be, sixth grade students would be able to get to all of their classes without needing to go through the area that the seventh and eighth grade students would be. Their main office is by their area, the counseling is by their area. They can get to the gymnasium, to their electives, and then they would go around that way to by the office to get to the cafeteria. So we did find we would have an ability to have them separated from the seventh and eighth grade students. One of the concerns that or questions that we had was, so what happens to our sixth graders when they go to the middle school? Is there a huge spike in discipline? How does that look? And several of the schools share that they really don't look at their discipline data by grade level, but some of our larger schools did have some data to share with us. More specifically, 4 of the 5 of them said that their sixth graders actually have the lowest number of referrals in their building. And the other one said that each grade level has their own types of referral, but that it is really dependent on each grade. And if you are interested in reading all of the specifics for each grade and what each building has shared there, you can get more information on page 7. Because of the fact that they have been the kind of the experts in that area since they've been middle school, principals wanted to know from them their opinion. What is the most appropriate placement for sixth grade students? Is it a middle school or is it an elementary building, and why? And this is one area that they all agreed upon, and they all said that they felt that sixth graders were best placed at a middle school to meet their social, emotional, and their academic needs. It was stated when you do add another grade level, it does make it more challenging for scheduling. However, it can totally be done. Another thing that they reminded in one of the responses is that sixth graders are different to eighth graders, just like fourth graders are different to sixth graders. And no matter which spot we put sixth graders, there is going to be differences to the peers. A piece of information that I was asked to also gather was the social emotional support for each of the buildings. And so I did ask, because we have both counselors and social workers, reached out to each of the buildings, and just looking at the larger schools, because some of the smaller schools actually had a counselor that supported multiple buildings or a social worker that supported multiple buildings. As far as the social emotional support that was out there, we had one that had 3 counselors and 3 social workers. We have 2 of them that are moving to that combination. One school does not have any counselors, but they had 4 social workers, and another one had 3 counselors and 1 social workers. The proposal that we brought forward had that we would have 5 counselors and 4 social workers, which is 3 more individuals devoted to the social emotional well-being of our students than any of the schools. And again, I looked at the larger schools that we had reached out to. So between that layer of support with our counselors and social workers, on top of our universal second step curriculum being administered in homerooms, I feel that our students' social emotional needs would be met with the recommendation that we have provided. So does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
I'm sorry, you said we currently have how many social workers at the middle school?
So our current numbers, we have 4 counselors and 2.8 social workers currently, but our proposal had 5 counselors and 4 social workers.
So we would be adding 1 counselor and 1 social worker, essentially.
Well, right, 1.2, we were going to make that 0.8 a curriculum, but this would be more or less in place. ELA, standard-wise, we are good, but right now we have a curriculum in 6th grade that teachers seem to like, and we have something else at the 7th and 8th grade that teachers seem to like. So we have to figure out what the right combination is there. And then also, what does the wheel totally look like at the 6th grade level, those different elective options. So there is going to need to be some curriculum work that needs to take place so that we make sure that we are aligning for our students and providing as many opportunities as possible.
Great, thank you. And then just a follow-up question that I'm sure
Are
you've
all the
already-
schools right now? Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry, Mike. Go
Are all
ahead.
the schools right now, 6th grade, able to do the full curriculum of STEM and math and whatnot in the elementary setting? Are those students getting everything that they should be getting in the middle school setting right now in the elementary?
This has been a unique year as far as getting through things, but typically math-wise, I would say yes. The science-wise, I would say because they only have about a half an hour compared to the middle school that has 40-some minutes, that extra time each day of being able to do science, you can get through more science in a middle school setting than you can in an elementary setting. Same thing with social science, because the amount of time allotted for social science in that setting is fewer minutes. So when you do get to a 40-minute period, you're able to get through since there's that concrete set of time.
And I do have a
All right,
question.
thank you.
I think maybe this could either be for Mickey or for Julie, but sometimes when large groups of teachers shift around, there might be some, I guess for lack of a better term, maybe some territory at play. And so what sort of professional development are you already anticipating that you're going to need and be able to do to help teachers, really feel as part of teams if this did become a plan that is going to be executed?
If this becomes a plan that we are going to move forward with, as we can start to hire people, I would like to use part of our SIP days at the end of the school year so that they can start to work as teams, get to know each other, and start to build some of those bonds before they even start working together in the same building. So that would be the what I see there. As far as some of the alignment, we started some of the alignment work having with mathematics, because I told you that's the one we're focusing on right this moment, already last year, and those will continue on. So a big part of it is going to be using some of that school improvement time.
We're also, our goal is to really have these positions hired by, I think we decided, Scott, in January this fall, so that our internal people really know where they're going to shift to, so they can start working in the middle school, and whoever the staff will be at the middle school can really start to work on that as well.
Great, thank you.
Do the elementaries each have a social worker right now?
Every one of our elementary buildings has at least one. Some of them have 2 social workers in their building, but the social worker is for grades 1 through 6.
And frequently,
So this would be like having a social worker.
This would be like having a social worker per grade plus. And same thing with and a counselor on top of it, where right now it is a social worker or possibly 2 social workers. If they have specialized programs that that the social worker ends up supporting a lot, those are the buildings that have 2. Otherwise, they have 1. So this is more social emotional support for our students.
Thank you.
And the savings that Josh talked about includes the additional social workers, the additional counselors, the additional or different staff that will be needed to be hired in January and all that stuff, correct?
correct, Josh, correct? That was all factored into our costing.
Yeah.
I don't know where Josh went. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, because we listed in there, in the original one, let's see if I can find it. how many there were, the pluses and minuses at each level. Mickey, because you did a lot of the certified staff too. Oh, I'm sorry. Can't see me. That should have all been in there, right, Mickey?
But yeah, it includes them all. It includes all of our changes, including the assistant principal, because we were recommending an additional assistant principal. It's all factored in. As well as the athletic director. Other questions you have? I think your bird has a question, Sue.
I don't know how to put that in the minutes.
I know.
Unfortunately, he would, if he was in here, he'd be saying things.
No other questions for Dr. Erb? Okay, so we're going to bring this back then to, and she will sum up a lot of information based on her experiences and her perspective, and she'll share all that. So I won't start talking and take away what she's going to talk about. But Mrs. Johnson, Didi, will you please take it from here?
Good evening, and thank you, honestly, for the opportunity to share my experience with you. It all is kind of full circle.
I'm going to interrupt this for a minute. If people could, if we could all mute ourselves. I'm starting to hear feedback.
Okay. It's so strange to talk to silence. However, I'll keep going and just know that you're with me in spirit. So tonight I'm here because I attended the initial board meeting in which the recommendation had been given and listened to the dialogue that occurred there, and then came back for the second board meeting in which what I appreciated was that you listened to what the folks were saying and you took heed to that. And they made some good points and I appreciated that. And so what I wanted, do you want me to present my presentation? Rookie here. Give me 1 second.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I just got started talking, so. But I felt, and this, I've been a principal for 6 years now and have not felt such a strong need to kind of share my perspective and give voice to the academic side and the interactions that I've had as a teacher and as an administrator. So let me get my presentation up here for you. Make sure I have the right thing here. And so I just wanted to talk to you about my opinion of how we can empower our students for success. Now I can't see you or hear you, so this is very strange for me. From my own personal background, if you don't know me, first I'm the principal of Olson Park Elementary School, and I taught at Olson Park, and I was a 6th grade teacher there. I also did a couple years of teaching 6th grade at Loves Park, and I was a science teacher at Harlem Middle School on the 7th grade fine arts team. And currently I'm the administrator there at Olson Park and have experienced the transition of the advanced learner program from McChesney Park to Olson Park. So I felt like I had captured quite a bit of the things that were being discussed, but I felt like we were missing a couple pieces to the puzzle to help make the best decision for our students. Ironically, this is a full circle moment for me because I entered the Harlem School District as a 6th grader when my parents moved from Missouri to Illinois, and I went to Franklin, which is now McChesney, and was a sixth grader at that school. I was Franklin Falcon. And this year was also the last group of sixth graders that I had the privilege of teaching. So shout out to the 2020 seniors, and especially those from Olson Park who I had the privilege of teaching. So it's a full circle moment. And also, as we talk about change, I was a product of change moving through the Harlem school district. My class was the first sophomore class to move from South Campus to North Campus when that all changed. And my daughter even was the first group of students to move to HH9 when they opened that for freshmen. So I guess I say all that to say that change is part of what needs to happen. And as we kind of move through this, we want to talk about our sixth graders and what change would really be most appropriate for them. And I am an advocate for moving the sixth graders, but I wanted to give you my reasons why. Simon Sinek is a motivational speaker, a YouTube guy, and who's taught us that when we know our why, then the how and the what is just a natural progression of what you do. If you understand what you believe and what your cause is, everything else kind of falls into place. Even through the equity work that we've done throughout the district the last few years, one of the strongest pieces of that sticks with me every single day is that our beliefs drive our behavior that determine our results. So when we know what we believe, that determines the specific action we take and gives us our result. Sometimes that's not our desired result. So when we miss that, we have to kind of go search back, like, what did I do and why did I do that? However, today we have the good fortune of knowing our why and trying to determine a result that is going to benefit our students for success. I drive or determine my belief system from the mission statement. At Olson Park, everything we do is connected to this mission statement. Every committee we have has a goal that is connected back to this. This is part of our culture and what we really do. So we refer to this frequently. And so when I think about why are we here tonight, the mission of the Harlem School District as a vital part of the community is to help diverse learners realize their unlimited potential by providing an educational program dedicated to academic excellence and the development of strong character in a safe and respectful learning environment. And what we have to ask ourselves, are we providing the educational program that's dedicated to academic excellence, no matter where the student is on the continuum of learning, and in that safe and respectful learning environment? And some of the information that we received tonight, those plans are in place to help support that for students. So one of the things that I do personally is when I'm trying to figure out what I need to do, I look around in the surrounding districts and I do look for schools that have areas of success, and I question what they do. And so when I looked at our surrounding school districts, let's see if I can move that a little bit. Most of the school districts that are in relatively our backyards do include our sixth graders in their school setting. The only one that doesn't in this set of schools is South Beloit. And what you may not know about me also is that I'm a numbers person. I was data coach for 100 years also. And so I do look at numbers, not as an end all be all, but just as a guide. Numbers don't tell the whole story, but they tell part of the story. And so I think it's important sometimes just to have information to help make the best decisions possible. When I look at South Beloit, Harlem Middle School, they They perform at about the same level. Out of 1,300 schools, they're in the 600s. And then, so we're performing better than the Rockford schools and then one of the Belvedere schools also. But there are 4 schools in our close area that are in the top 100. And so when we're talking about a shrinking community, and if somebody were going to move here, would they move to that school district based on that information? And so, and what if you had a 6th grader? Would you look to see what options were available for your 6th grader in either school district? And so then I also looked at their programming. So in our surrounding areas, our surrounding school districts, they have a continuum of support services for their students, like most schools do, but they also have a wider net of advanced learning opportunities. We do have our ALP program in the elementary setting, and we move, but when you think about our 6th graders, that's limited to just that certain number of students in that programming. And what the 6th grade program would offer is that subject-specific advanced learning program, and then Thurgood Marshall actually has their gifted program, which is ranked #1 in the state. They also had PE daily, which is important, and I'll get to that in a minute. And they had diverse elective choices daily. So students could choose between foreign language, music, which would be band or choir, writing, art, tech ed, and things like that, which were pretty common. But those are daily, and some of the schools had like a rotation, so they got a taste for a variety of things in those 6th grade settings. But our students aren't receiving that daily. They also had student groups in which they could participate. The common ones were student council and science olympiad. And then obviously there are those school sports leagues that they have, and there's a greater variety of that related to the school for both boys and girls. It's also important to recognize that the Illinois State Board of Education defines 6th grade as secondary. And so when we're thinking about curriculum and all of those things, this is an important piece that we have to factor in on how we're going to make decisions. Even in talking with administrators at the middle school, they want the 6th graders there because they know that banding that curriculum and making sure that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade really work well together so that they are not filling in holes along the way is an important part of that vertical articulation for teachers. But there's also, when you think about curriculum, you can think about it in steps is one of the easiest ways I think to think about it. As a student moves from 1st to 2nd, it's 1 step. 2nd to 3rd, 1 step. 3rd to 4th, it's about a step and a half. And then 4th to 5th is 2 steps. 6th grade is a whole nother set of steps in another room, and they don't necessarily connect the way that you think they might. And they start to they just need to build off of that foundation of the K-5 band, but they're going in a little bit different direction. So it's really important for us to recognize that that secondary component is a reality just defined by the state of Illinois. So what do we think 6th graders need? Well, we do think that they need a great team of teachers who understand their needs, their intellectual needs, their physical needs, and their social emotional needs. I did survey all of the 6th grade teachers and the elementary principals. I got 21 responses back, and I will say 17 of those indicated that there were benefits of attending middle school for the 6th graders. It was clear we had three that said, no, they really should not go to middle school. But the resounding response was that there are benefits both academically, socially, emotionally, where they can enter into those different social groups, because first through sixth grade, especially now that we're shrinking, we're down to 2 sections, and they're with the same, 50 kids for 6 years, and they know each other really well. And sometimes they just need to branch out and find people, new friends, make new friendships like that. They also have such a significant range of understanding and intellectual abilities. And sometimes I liken it to, by the time they get to 6th grade, when you think about those steps, we're asking the 6th grade teacher, who should now be a master of all that content, to fill in the gaps where they could be 2nd and 3rd grade level sometimes, and you have such a wide range when they could be in a variety of classes that suit their needs more specifically and more appropriately. It's kind of like a bunch of classes related to a one-room schoolhouse. Not that it is, and our teachers do a great job. We could just do a better job of giving them what they need in that space. We also need to understand those physical changes. And in an elementary setting, also, you've got big kids, little desks, even if we hike them up, just those physical demands, they need to move. They need that physical activity every day, that increase of dopamine to get them a little bit motivated to do something, that sluggish teenager who struggles with getting anything done. And that social emotional piece, they're trying to figure out who they are, and they're longing for independence. They may try identities on by the day, and they appear to change, but that's because that struggle of figuring out who they are is a necessary component of where they are in life, and where they're growing. Other things that are really important are the pathways, the college and career readiness, another Illinois State Board of Education guideline that is unfolding as we speak. And it really starts in 6th grade, where they're looking at career clusters, so that they can start to determine and look at career clusters as opportunities that are available to them, but determining what types of classes they will need, what kind of instruction they can take, so that when they get to high school, they're really ready to make a choice on what path that they want to go, and take those the coursework that's going to align best with the path that suits their interests, suits their abilities, suits their capabilities. And that's got to start pretty early on. Also, having electives that align to their interest and ability. I think about the students that get in trouble in art every week when they go, because it's such a frustrating thing for them. And they would have the ability to choose the electives that are interesting to them. And then they start to take ownership, because they have some choice in their own educational path. Increased science and social studies, as well as those electives. Those electives are daily. Think about a student who is in band. In the elementary setting, they're going to get that 1 day a week, whereas if that's their elective, they get that daily. Science and social studies, because the time that's arranged, oftentimes teachers will take science and teach it for like 3 weeks, and then flip it and do social science. And they need both of those every day. And so to build those, when you think about having a student who's strong in science, and they're not necessarily getting that every single day, what opportunities are we missing, and what foundations are we not providing to the best that we can by providing those class options? Also, having increased opportunities of specialized instruction for all students. One of the things that actually breaks my heart is when I give out the letters for ALP. There is probably always one student in our grade, our third grade, who's had a sibling attend the program. And so they know what it takes, and they've been working really hard to get there, and they're like 2 points away from being on the list. Those students typically go on to actually take honors courses later. And so that just provides more opportunities earlier for students in those honors courses, and it opens up more opportunities for the students in the fine arts to participate in those programs too, because we know that more students apply for those programs than get in. And so here we just create more opportunities, which is much better for all of us. And then there are the enrichment, or what we would call at the elementary level, the intervention courses that meet students right where they are and help them plug back in and catch up at a faster pace, because they have that intervention daily. Sometimes we're not able to provide the intervention daily. Maybe it's only 3 days a week or 4 days a week, based on the schedule of our PE teacher, our art teacher, our music teacher, and our librarian. And then there tends to be a wider variety of options for students with IEPs, because the elementaries don't have every continuum of service within each school. We have programs that at different schools, and we work through those, but the full continuum is at the middle school. Whoops, sorry about that. In addition to that, again, the PE time, it being daily, which is ISBE requirement, and it's a longer time frame. So getting those bodies moving, they need that rigorous activity to get their blood to their brain, to get that frontal cortex going with that injection of hormones. Them being passive does not help them. They need that physical activity, and they hone their skills better when they have those electives available daily. And then there's sports and the musicals and the art festivals and Science Olympiad, all of those extracurricular things that the grade school just doesn't provide for our sixth graders. And that's just lots of opportunity for them to find themselves. And that's just a few. I know that the middle school is really doing a nice job of trying to create programs like gaming or for gamers and things like that to really have everyone be inclusive somewhere. So as an administrator who worked with a program to change, so I'm thinking of Ralston, or the fine arts moving to Ralston, it was really about taking responsibility for the change as the leaders. And I know that there are good leaders in this district, and we're a tight-knit group of people, and we really rely on each other to help each other to be successful. There is no doubt in my mind that on both sides of the table that everyone cares about the students. People really just want the best for the students, and that's why we're here. And when the ALP came through, what I had to do was listen to what the consultant had suggested and work through the plan that the district had designed with the consultant. Listen to the concerns of the parents. The greatest concern of the parents was just not knowing what it was going to be like at Olson Park. And could they come and see it, touch it, feel it, and hear what the plan was? People need to know. And I think that is part of that communication piece that's going to be an important part for the leadership at the middle school. Thinking about the message, there are lots of things in place where they will have time to prepare. The students will have time, teachers, parents, administrators, to set up programming. We already have a social emotional learning program, second step, that they can work to do as a class, or they can make that into their own thing at the middle school, but they're going to need time to put all of those things into play. Consider those elective options for the college and career readiness. They've already got a plan to put students on the wheel, and I think that they really understand how sixth graders fold into that. We've talked about having the additional appropriate staff to provide that soft landing for students. One of the greatest concerns from the survey from the teachers was really just that transition, that social emotional space. How we really going to protect them? There's just an unknown of what that's going to be like and what that's going to feel like for them. And while we want to protect them and keep them safe, we still want to give them as much opportunity as possible. And that was really what the overwhelming message was from the sixth grade teachers. And I think it's this next bit of time, if you can move forward with this, is just allowing that plan to unfold, just like e-learning. No one even saw that one coming. And it was amazing what we were able to accomplish. And I have no doubt that when we rely on the staff and the administrators that we have, that they are going to take this and run with it and make it the best situation that they can for the sixth graders. And we're going to see our sixth graders succeed, and they need that space. So what do the sixth graders really need? They really need to be empowered. And by that, I mean, it's really giving them choice and opportunity to be successful. We also know that moving into seventh grade, it's like you get to middle school and boom, you're done. Eighth grade, you're out the door. It's like a blink of an eye and it's over. That sixth grade transition also slows that process down a little bit and gives everybody a chance to think about what they need to do, what they need to choose. And with the programming, with college and career readiness and the pathways, they can put those systems together to be a little bit stronger. So I think it's just important that we have to consider the opportunities that we really could offer our sixth graders, and they're really necessary. If anybody knows me, they know my love for sixth graders is, I love sixth grade. They're my people. It will actually hurt my heart if they leave the elementary setting, but I love them enough also to say the best decision for them is really for them to be in a middle school setting so that they can begin to make those choices. You know, as a butterfly comes out of the cocoon, if you help it out, that struggle, it won't fly, it won't be able to fly. And so we can put that cocoon in the middle school and just let them come out so that they have the strength to fly, and empower them with their choice and just give them the tools to guide them. And so I hope that you'll just stand with me and make a choice to have the students of sixth grade become middle schoolers as they really should be. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Your commitment and dedication to the board is just a public demonstration of how much you actually care for our students. And I appreciate the work you do. You being there every other Monday night, that dedication of your time, I do appreciate it. And I thank you for listening and hearing my perspective tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
Any questions for Didi? Thank you, Didi, very much.
Thank you, Didi.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Johnson. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I learned some new stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about the recommendation this evening?
guess I don't have a question. I have a statement.
Uh-huh.
I believe we are moving in the right direction to move the sixth graders up to middle school. I believe that there's been a lot of work with administration and staff and getting some answers to our questions. Tour in the middle school, all the different districts surrounding the information that we have gotten from them. I want to commend the team for bringing more and more information every time we talk about it. In my mind, though, I keep coming up with more and more questions, and I realize that it's going to be a never ending process of questions and stuff. However, at this moment in time, we have so many unknowns. We have unknowns with the coronavirus. We have unknowns with, first of all, if we do come back to full schedule come this fall, what are we dealing with? Because right now, a lot of these kids who were well-adjusted, fun-loving kids are right now emotionally anxious, socially distant, and isolated from their peers. How are they going to react when they come back? At not just sixth grade level, but all the levels. Are we prepared for that? And handling that? And if they don't all come back, are we prepared for that? And what does that look like? I guess my question is how do we move forward with this when at this very moment, we can't even move forward with what we're going to do next school year for our students? Yes, this pandemic threw us all into a tailspin, and we did the best we can, but the depression, the anxiety, and the social isolation that these kids are having to deal with is the very thing I think that we've been talking about, our fears and concern with moving up. Obviously, we couldn't do anything about the pandemic because one life saved is worth everything we've done. But on that same token, one sixth grader saved is worth it also.
I believe that there are a lot of unknowns with COVID and with the pandemic and everything going on. I do believe that we have the full year next year to really work on pulling people together and making those adjustments. And as Dee Dee said, the communication piece, like you said, there'll be continuous questions. And I think that with the change in, with the new principal coming in and her expertise in middle school, if that in fact is where, if the board approves that recommendation this evening, I think that she's a perfect person to help us make that transition, empowering the staff, empowering the students, and really making that transition for the following year. So yeah, there will continue to be questions, and we can continue to talk. We can continue to answer questions. We can continue to bring questions forward to the planning group, and because we've still got a lot of work to do. You know, with the social emotional, the social emotional support that we provide as a district in general, I'm confident that we can do this in that time frame.
And talking about it.
Oh, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike. I'll speak right after you. You're good.
Okay, thanks. Sue, I had that same thought, and I eventually came to the conclusion that I had to put things into two different buckets. I had to put the pandemic and all of our unknowns about what we're going to do about that in one bucket. And I had to put this decision in another bucket because I realized that the pandemic is going to affect everybody in some unknown way regardless. I mean, I think, you know, we are going to be living with the pandemic and the after effects for so many years, and indirectly and directly. And I wasn't sure I knew enough about how it's going to play out at this point. I mean, even every day as I look at the news, it seems to be so different, you know, in what I'm reading. And even on the same day, depending on where I go for news, it's different. But, you know, I really had to look at this kind of without the pandemic in mind to see where we were in March. And I had a thought today that was kind of profound. And, you know, that was, what if we had to make this decision in the reverse? Like, what if we had a middle school and we had been in middle school setting for a number of years and we were faced with putting the sixth graders into the elementary schools? And I thought that'd be a really scary decision to make, to ask all of our sixth grade student families to, actually it'd be the opposite, to ask all our families with first graders to accept sixth graders into the schools. And I thought that that would be kind of a much more precarious position. And then it dawned on me that that's exactly what reality is. We have our sixth graders with our first graders. So I just wanted to share that with everybody tonight, because I do think it's perspective I hadn't thought about before. And it was meaningful perspective to me that if I had to make this decision on the other side, that it would be a very difficult decision, having a kid who is a first grader to all of a sudden ask a kid who's 5 years older to be in the building. So, and that's not to say that, you know, kids can't be kids at no matter what level, right? We're going to see issues regardless, whether they're kindergarten or 12th graders. But we also have to realize that, you know, there's hope for kids too. And I think we have to focus on the really positive kids as well. You know, the what ifs across the board. I guess that's just what I've been thinking about lately. So I wanted to share that.
I have two parts too. Sue, when you bring up a great point with the kids and the unknown of going forward, especially with the COVID, with moving kids up to sixth grade, all our elementary students will have more access to a social worker than ever before. And those sixth graders will actually have more access to a social worker. So in essence, we will be giving them more access and more capabilities than they currently have. So that is actually in a benefit for us going, if we decide to ever go forward with this. And two, there's always something said having a plan, and the plan is 2 years away, but it gives motivation, it gives the district purpose. We get refocused. I mean, we do this every year. We do this on many different levels, but again, coming off of something this great, this devastating to our whole region, I mean, for us to have a plan to go forward would be actually something that would help take a little bit of the mental stress off of the unknown of coronavirus. I mean, we can't plan for what is going to be that unforeseen enemy, but as long as we have some goal in sight and something to move forward to, that there's something to be said in that. I mean, we're not just doing this or proposing this, or, I mean, obviously between all of our board members and our past discussions, I mean, we have felt many different ways, and this isn't a decision that we've came across lightly. So, I mean, it's something to be said that the presentation that we just had, that the opportunities that these kids will be able to get and experience would be more beneficial than just staying in the elementary setting. Thank you. I'm done for the moment.
I guess. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say anybody else. Go ahead, Sue.
I guess I'm struggling with when a question is asked and it's, well, we'll have to figure out a plan for that. We'll have to figure out a plan for that. And I get we're not going to have a plan for every single scenario. However, some things I think were brought up tonight, questions about how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? Well, we'll figure that out later. I go back to my same kind of scenario that you don't go buy a house and buy it by looking at the outside, knowing whether or not it has what you need on the inside, without knowing if you're financially going to be able to put a bathroom in, because it doesn't have a bathroom in the indoors. It's got an outhouse. Those type of questions, and it seems we still are having. We'll figure that out. We'll work that out. Well, why are we not figuring that out and working that out before we make this decision? I don't think a decision to move the sixth graders over should make a difference on whether or not we move the Ralston program over or the fine arts program over when it's all together. I mean, we're getting this as a package deal.
But that on that deal, since Julie was doing that, I believe because that was some of the parents' concerns, and it seems to me, I'm not trying to speak for you, but it seems to me she was going to put it to kind of like a vote for if the parents want to decide to move them over, kind of like as a goodwill gesture. I mean, I'm just paraphrasing or reading into it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I believe there was a plan in place.
Yeah. That's specifically what I'm not exactly what know what you're referring to, but if it is the Ralston matter, we originally had made a decision. This is how we're going to move them. We're going to move our fourth grade over next year, and then the rest then the next year, then it would phase out of McChesney. And then based on all of the feedback and all the questions we received from the teachers in general, who said that we really want them to stay together at McChesney and then move them over, we said that, well, if we're going to be moving students twice, we would want to have that parent input into that process. So certainly the plan, I could say this is exactly what the plan will be. But I think that because of the feedback and because of the input that we received, we made a modification to that plan. Were there other things specifically that you said that we didn't really have a plan for? I'm not sure what you were referring to.
Well, in walking through the middle school and asking several questions about the special ed rooms and the special ed students and whatnot, it was like, well, we don't know yet. Well, when will we know this? Because this is important information. How many lockers are down that hallway for the sixth grade level? Is that going to be enough for just the sixth grade level to be there? Or now are we going to be short at other areas of the building where the seventh and eighth graders have to use the lockers down that hall and will have to be in that area? No? Okay, so that means we do have enough down. And I asked, well, how many lockers do we have here? Nobody could answer. Well, there's all kinds of different questions like that. And I agree with our mission statement, but I also agree with our beliefs that we believe that every student has the equal right to a quality education that builds on his or her individual strengths. But if we don't have the answers going into it, how are we going to build on their individual strengths and needs?
Well, part of it is that we need the whole year to plan. We need the whole year for the team to come together and make all these very detailed decisions. We know that we can fit them all in there. We know that we have a framework of what it is that we know that we want to do for our students. We know that we're going to have these social workers. We know that we're going to have these counselors, and there's going to be the teams. But the nitty-gritty detail is really what the teams need to work through and to develop. We know that we're going to change a couple of those rooms in that hallway where the sixth grade are to make sure that they have science labs in that hallway, as opposed to them having to go to the other part of the building. So we know all the questions to the things that we need to know in order to make the decision. There's some of the detail and all of the nitty-gritty things. That's what the team needs to work through. And if you didn't get really solid answers from walking through, I apologize for that because I think that we have the answers to those questions, where we're putting the science labs, where we're putting sinks, where we're putting our sixth grade. You know, we worked through all of that. And so we have those plans and those details worked out. But a lot of those nitty gritties need to still be, and that's why we want to make this decision so we have a full year to plan for, to communicate, and to be ready to implement that following fall.
Yeah. Currently, what's the average number of students in the sixth grade classroom now at the grade school levels?
That gets pushed to, the new contract language is 26, correct? Or 27? 26. And then this will be, we can have approximately 30 up to 32. But based on, and that schedule, so answering your question too, we can't say every single classroom is going to have this many, because based on the schedule at the middle school, and I've built master schedules at the high school, you'll have some classes, depending on what other classes are offered that period, that have maybe in the low 20s. And then other classes that'll have closer to that higher end number of students. And so it'll never be more than a certain number, but in some cases, there will also be smaller classes as well. Our self-contained classrooms for special ed, some of those things, those need to be much smaller as well. So when we work out that master schedule, then we know exactly, we can tell you every period, every class, every period of the day, how many students are in that class. But we know that this would be the average number based on what we know now, not having all the students there yet.
They'll be getting more specialized classroom time with each one of these teachers, correct?
I'm not, what do you mean by that?
10 minutes for like math, science.
Yeah.
Social science and science, yes. There's more time devoted in a middle school than in an elementary setting.
Yeah.
Well, and if these teachers only do science all day or do math all day, they're specialists in it, not just generalized good teachers. And
right. But
yep.
But my point is also with the student count is what I'm saying is currently in grade school, we're talking, there's 25 now, right? The language is moving up to 26 or 27.
No, it was at 27. It's now at 26 for sixth grade.
Okay.
It used to be 27.
But once the sixth grade moves up to middle school, that language will change. So it could potentially be 30 kids.
Correct.
I guess, what would that look like if we move those classes to smaller? Because now we're taking them out of their grade school where they're comfortable, moving them to the middle school and adding more students. What kind of different things is that going to put on them? Have we seen any studies to figure out? I mean, are they great with a bunch more kids in the classroom? I thought
there has been a lot of studies as far as class size and student achievement, and the class size is not what is going to affect student achievement. The greater opportunities is going to affect student achievement, but the difference in the number of students that you are referring to is not considered one of those factors.
For every student or just for your main general ed students?
There's a Dr. John Hattie, who's done a bunch of meta-analysis. So he is looking at students of all sorts of backgrounds, from all sorts of areas. And so that pool of students that he's looking at is a large number of students. And that's where that research is from.
Our students with IEPs are in smaller settings. Our intervention class at that Dee Dee referred to, where they would have every day for math and reading, that's a smaller setting as well. They don't have more than, is it 15 or 20 students in that class at a time?
What about our students with 504s?
It depends. it depends. They would likely be in the general setting. But if they're in a different, if they're in a intervention class, then they would be in that smaller setting as well. So it's going to depend on what their 504 calls for.
And currently our contract talk for 7th graders in the classroom is how many?
The same as the rest of the middle school. So it'd be that 30, right around that 30, 32 range at the very outside. So as Mickey said, that the class size isn't going to make that significant, is not going to make as big of a difference as the fact that the kids have more opportunities, different opportunities they can choose, all those other things that we've talked about outweighs that class size difference.
Yeah, I mean, the walkthrough at the middle school, and I would really have to go back through it again to remember exactly what all my questions were. But a lot of times the answers I got was, that's a good question. Keep asking it.
Yeah, and that's too bad. And that would be something we can certainly walk back through with you. I think that when we have our new principal, will be charged with this and will be more than willing to take us through and talk with us and let us know the specific plan as it is unfolding.
Okay.
Is it okay to interject one thing about class size that I meant to say in my presentation? The beauty of the middle school design is that they're instructional classes, so it's much smaller, less than 10. There's co-taught classes that have 2 teachers, and oftentimes we find our students with 504s in that space also, where there's a max of 30, but there's 2 teachers also. And so the class with like 30 or 32, typically those students are just able to handle that. And I did work at the middle school and I was a science teacher with lots of stuff. And it is manageable and they're ready for that. And where students need a smaller pocket, there are places for those students too. And I think that's what the beauty of it is. When you get grade, the difference of abilities is so significant that's why there's such a dramatic need for very different class sizes at the same level. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I had forgotten to mention, or it didn't even cross my mind that our co-taught classes have two teachers with that whole group of kids. Yeah.
I know this is an odd question, but was it ever presented at any point what we could do with that cost savings? I mean, I know we're looking at a very substantial cost savings to the district. I don't really recall an outline of what we would do with that money, either programmatically or rebate, but I'm wondering if there was ever any ideas other than just to have it as a cost savings.
Yeah, so most of that conversation was being efficient with the money that we were using, making sure that we could pay for those salaries and benefits that we do see in light of the $15 minimum wage, the $40,000 teacher increase, the 5 to 6% compounding healthcare cost, and trying to stay competitive and keep that without going into a deficit. So in light of now what's happening, obviously that becomes even more critical and important based on the revenue drops that we're going to see coming. So that's kind of generally, I mean, we didn't talk a lot specifically in the meeting about it, but that was, at least in my mind, what that would have gone for.
And certainly there's room for, like, as we added positions like social workers and counselors and other people, we can take a look at we're looking at the possibility of instructional coaches and things like that at the middle school level as well. Currently, that's more of an elementary thing, but there's our social emotional curriculum is another big one, and how do we really work on that social emotional learning piece as well? Are there things that we can do? Is there some shift or some? And that's why I don't want to say this is what we're going to do, because the experts at that level really need to get their heads together and start to look at. One of the overwhelming things is that feedback as we were doing our principal search is that social emotional and that behavior component of the middle school student. So that is one of the big charges moving forward for figuring that out. And so we need to look at how we do it now and what changes do we need to make.
So, and I guess my question was, is that money needed elsewhere immediately pronto, or does it give us opportunities to expand in the future? And I'm hearing yes and for that.
I would say yes. We want to be able to be fiscally sound in the long term so that we don't end up having to do major cuts to all of the things that we do. So being fiscally responsible along the way while creating programming that is best for our students is the best way to go. But then, we still have that wiggle room to be able to make some of these adjustments that we need to in order to make this transition, things that we may not have thought of ahead of time, that as our teams start working and pulling things together that we need to revisit. So there is that, that amount of wiggle room. And like you said, it's a both and. How are we going to stay fiscally responsible so we're not having to make major cuts down the road, like we had to back in 2010. But then how do we also make sure that our programming is solid and sound and good for our students?
Gotcha. That's all I had.
Me too. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or any other comments? Okay. All right. So then we will ask for that vote at the end of this open session. Thank you, everybody, for the dialogue and for the conversation and for all the work that so many of you have done. My other item this evening is my retirement announcement and notification. And so what I did was prepare something to say so I stay on point, and I'd like to share that now. So last week I shared with the staff and families through email notifications that I will be retiring on June 30th, 2021. I would have liked to have shared this information with staff, specifically in person, as we have been working together tirelessly for the last 16 years in order to develop systems, programs, and above all, relationships with and for our students that are based on the mission we developed all those years ago. The mission of the Harlem School District as a vital part of the community is to help diverse learners realize their unlimited potential by providing an educational program dedicated to the academic excellence and the development of a strong character in a safe and respectful learning environment. We had many challenges facing us when I stepped into my role as superintendent in 2007. As a district, we had some almost insurmountable matters facing us. Overall, working relationships between the staff, the board, the union, parents, and the community had been all but severed. We had some very public animosity between our former superintendent, our staff, the school board, and the community. And the U.S. Department of Justice knocked on my door to invite us to enter into federal mediation with the Concerned Minority Parent Advocacy Group, who were calling for change for our racial minority students and our students with special needs. The list went on. Slowly and steadily, we worked together to begin repairing the many relationships that suffered and to put in place systems and programs that staff, students, and families could count on. We developed our mission statement and our beliefs based on the input from teachers, support staff, students, parents, the school board, business partners, and community members. I visited with as many people as I could and asked a simple question: what do we need to do as a district over the next 5 years to positively affect student achievement? I will never forget that question. From the various stakeholders' perspectives, we built the mission, beliefs, goals, and strategies to provide our focus for all that we did as a district. We have used that as a guide over the past 13 years, revisiting and updating the mission, beliefs, and plan twice in order to keep us moving in the right direction toward new levels of excellence. Through this process, we had difficult financial times, many difficult conversations, small steps forwards and big steps backward, and we remained true to our mission and beliefs and persevered through all of the challenging and downright difficult times. We have not been perfect, and we have made our share of mistakes collectively and individually, to include myself. What makes me so proud to be part of Harlem is that we have always gone about our challenges and successes with honesty, integrity, dignity, and respect. These words, honesty, integrity, dignity, and respect, are the base of how we have come to conduct ourselves as an organization. That was the expectation I have had for myself and for everyone who I had encountered along the way. Without action around those 4 words, our mission can never be achieved. When any one of us or all of us fell short of conducting ourselves with honesty, integrity, dignity, and respect, we worked to correct ourselves and change and grow for the good of helping each student realize their unlimited potential. People have come to Harlem because that is how we do business. People have left Harlem either by choice or by invitation because they have not been able to or have chosen not to live by those 4 words. As I reflect on my time as an educator and look toward my final year, not only in Harlem, but in public education as a whole, that is what I hope my legacy to be. In the end, it isn't about what we did or did not do. It is about how and why we did it. How and why I did it is very clear. To make sure each and every student and child that comes through our doors is treated with dignity, respect, honesty, integrity, and love. Each student is welcome to our table for the miracle they are and the many gifts that they bring with them. We have worked to fix our systems to adjust in order to meet these needs for our students. We do not need to fix our students as they are perfect just as they are. We must allow them to grow and learn in a loving environment. Are we completely there yet? No. However, we will continue to strive toward that mission, the beliefs and goals. We will continue to strive for that mission, the beliefs and the goals with honesty, dignity, respect, and integrity. That is all that I ask, and that is all that I have ever asked or expected. I believe and feel in my heart that I am leaving Harlem in a great place when I walk out of my office on June 30th, 2021. Harlem is strong, and most of all, Harlem is good for children. Thank you to everyone I have encountered along the way for supporting me and challenging me to improve and better myself so I could do right by our students. Harlem, I will hold you in my heart forever. Thank you. And that ends my report this evening.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank
Okay.
you,
I'm
Julie.
impressed. There were no tears.
I know I did it. I can't say I did it when I was reading it earlier with no tears, but those are coming. It's very weird, very surreal.
Okay. I think we are ready to move on. With that, we need a motion and a second to approve consent agenda item A with no addendum.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Meister,
Aye.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Barger,
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Dr. Flanagan,
Aye.
Mr. Stirling,
Aye.
Okay, we need a motion and a second to approve release of redacted closed minutes from July 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
I thought we just did that one.
No, that was
The
personal agenda.
Yeah, that was just on the agenda too.
That was 11A. We're on 12A now.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Oh, I'm sorry, I did it wrong. Let me see. Dr. Flanagan,
Aye.
Mr. Stirling,
Aye.
Mr. Meister,
Aye.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Barger,
Aye. We need a motion and a second to approve Windsor School Improvement Plan.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Stirling,
Aye.
Mr. Meister,
Aye.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Barger,
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Dr. Flanagan,
Aye.
We need a motion and a second to approve the resolution declaring surplus property.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Barger,
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Dr. Flanagan,
Aye.
Mr. Meister,
Aye.
Mr. Stirling,
Aye.
Mr. Meister,
Aye.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
We need a motion and a second to approve the facilities utilization recommendation.
Motion.
Motion.
Mr. Barger,
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
No.
Dr. Flanagan,
Aye.
Mr. Stirling,
Aye.
Mr. Meister,
No.
Jill Brogan,
No.
Mrs. Meeks, no.
Okay. Julie, do we have any announcements and discussion? No?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, we do not.
Okay. That we need a motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss employment of personnel.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Dr. Flanagan,
Aye.
Mr. Stirling,
Mike, you were on mute.
Yeah, I think you said aye.
okay. Mr. Meister,
Aye.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Meeks, aye. Mr. Barger,
Aye. Okay.
Do your vote this way. You can hear us, we can hear you, so I think we can be fine. How does that work? Are we all good with that?
Works for me.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Larry.
We're back in open session. And we need a motion and a second to approve Renee Coleman as the Harlem Middle School principal.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Stirling,
Aye.
Mr. Meister,
Aye.
Jill Brogan,
Aye.
Mrs. Speaks, aye. Mr. Barger,
Aye.
Mrs. Brogan,
Aye.
Dr. Flanagan,
Aye.
Okay. That's all we have. With that, we need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have a great week.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
My computer doesn't like me.